Hello, Salim Omar here from the eCommerce Money Map podcast. Got a special guest for us. His name is Shanif Dhanani. He is the co-founder and CEO of Aptio. Aptio helps e-commerce brands personalize their marketing campaigns by predicting what the customers will buy next. And I think it's best if Shanif we start off with him sharing with us a little of his backstory. So Shanif, welcome. And if you don't mind, give us a quick high-level overview on what brings you up to now.
Hey, Salim. Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. I think you covered that at the highest level. What we try to do is we help brands sort of use their data better, and that's sort of very meaningful to me because my personal background is in the world of software and AI and data science. Before what I'm doing now, I helped start a company that was doing mobile advertising when mobile apps were first becoming big, and we were sort of finding the best places to show ads for specific brands. And then I did a lot of the same type of work at Twitter, using data to try to understand how to advertise to people better. And so what I ultimately wanted to do was bring some of these data techniques, these AI techniques, to every brand and every company and basically help them use their data better. And so that's kind of where we've landed today. Over the course of a couple of years, we've worked with several e-commerce companies to help them understand sort of what their customers are likely to do next, help them predict that, and then help them use that information to create better campaigns for them. So it's kind of the course of my career, and that's kind of where I find myself today.
Great. And you must be a really smart guy because you've been a software consultant at Booz Allen, which is probably one of the top consulting companies in the world, isn't it?
It's a very well-known company. Yeah, a lot of folks might argue, hey, maybe this, maybe that, but it's they do a lot of good work with a lot of organizations. And so I started my career there and did a lot of software work for the government as well as for private companies.
Yeah, and then you've got a BS in a bachelor's in computer science from the University of Virginia, and you've got an MBA from the Stern Business School at NYU. So yeah, you must be a smart guy.
Either that or I'm pretending really well, one of those two.
Right. So let's dive right in. An e-commerce business owner listening to this and things like, all right, this is interesting. Tell us, how can e-commerce companies use data to their advantage?
It's such a huge field. Today, these e-commerce companies are really sort of struggling to gain new customers at an effective and cost-effective manner. And a lot of them, maybe aren't focused on retention. And so what we try to do is help them solve those two problems, acquisition and retention, using their data in a very specific way. Kind of the first thing, as you mentioned, is we try to understand and analyze customer behavior so that we can sort of forecast at an individual level what customers are looking to do. What are they looking to buy? Are they going to come back? Are they going to churn if you're a subscription product? And what we do is we use AI to forecast, these things, basically trying to understand what customers are going to do next. And then we group these customers by their forecasts. So if people are likely, let's say there's a group of people who are likely to buy a red dress or a group of people who are likely to churn, we'll group them together and then we'll kind of provide the brands this group of people and help them understand what's the best way to reach out to these folks. And so a lot of times, in order to make these forecasts, you have to use data to understand customer behavior and to use it to sort of guide what's going to happen next. So that's kind of the first way brands can use data. Basically, grouping their customers together, either by looking at what they're going to do in the future or looking at what they've done in the past, and then targeting them with really good campaigns. But that's not necessarily the only way. Another thing that we help people do is take a look at the products that they're selling on their site and understand which products sell well together so that perhaps they want to group, two products as a single SKU. A lot of our customers have done this because it helps them increase their average order value. So if you know what products people buy together, you can sort of group that together and increase your sales there. And so there's a lot of different things you can do. You can start to understand what are your customers looking for, what are they most likely to buy, how are they likely to buy it, and in what order. And by knowing all of these things, you can then, as an owner, come up with a higher converting store, or as a marketer, come up with higher converting campaigns.
Hmm, interesting. What are some cool things that you've learned about people or customers as you've been
Yeah.
doing this type of work?
I think this is it probably goes without saying, but most brands have the large majority of their customers only buy one time. You know, at some brands, maybe 95% of your customers have only bought once. And maybe at other brands, you might be doing really well, and maybe 30 or 40% of your 60% of your customers buy once, which means 30 or 40% are repeat. And so that, it didn't necessarily, I knew that this was going to be the case, but it's so widely applicable across all types of e-commerce stores that it's a little surprising, because a lot of folks are maybe not driving as many sort of sales as they can from their existing customers, which is where a lot of the revenue comes from. And so that's one thing that sort of really intrigued me and sort of I thought was kind of interesting. There's a lot of interesting things though when you dive into the data. You can start to understand what drives certain things from customers. So, for example, if you're trying to forecast what's the lifetime value of a customer, you might find that something like zip code is a really good attribute in predicting the lifetime value of someone. And you might
Hmm,
say, hey, well, like, why is that? But then you might break
hmm.
down the box a little bit and say, well, I guess zip code is correlated to a lot of things like socioeconomic status and X, Y, and Z. And so it's funny when you're working with data, you've got all of these little tidbits and insights that you can start to lean on and say, well, that's really interesting. This is really interesting. Um, it's really individual per brand, but there are some things that sort of span across brands that I found interesting, kind of like that repeat purchase rate that I mentioned earlier.
Oh, that's really, really interesting. I mean,
Yeah,
retention and lifetime value, I mean, this is what makes or breaks a business, isn't it?
so true. Yeah, it's really important for businesses to be able to continue to sell to their existing customers, especially as the cost of acquisition goes increasingly higher now.
Yeah, yeah. And what are some of the things that a business does to do that, to increase retention?
I think a big part of it, it's interesting. We actually have this ebook called Building Relationships with Your Customer to Increase Repeat Purchases. I think the best thing a business can do is sort of be top of mind for a customer when that customer is looking to make a purchase or incentivize that customer. So, what does that look like? A lot of times we recommend sharing your brand story. So maybe you created a brand for people who were shorter than average or people who are larger or maybe for women, right? Whatever your brand story is, you should be sending that out in sort of a drip campaign across the first couple of months of your relationship with a new subscriber. Just get them sort of understanding who you are. And then interspersed with those campaigns, you want to sort of do promotions, but you want to do promotions in a way that's individualized. So, for example, if you've got a sale on a new product, maybe you want to sort of highlight that sale to a specific group of your customers that are most likely to buy it. Or maybe you want to just promote all of your products, but you want to do it on an individualized basis where you show the top 3 products for each person. So you're going to want to intersperse sort of sales and promotions with your brand story, and you're going to want to be, sort of top of mind. And that includes doing things like incorporating SMS messaging, even doing things like incorporating Facebook ads, where you're sort of touching, each person multiple times throughout the course of a week or a month so that they don't forget about you. Um, so yeah, it's a combination of being authentic and promoting yourself in the right ways.
Right, right. Yeah, I've kind of read or heard that the best word for any person is their name. So in your case, it's
Yeah.
Shanif. For me, it's Salim. How important is it to use a name to personalize marketing
Mhm.
through by using the name of the person?
It's funny because when people think about personalization, sometimes all they think about is, oh, if I put their name in there, it's going to be a personalized email. I think it's important. Generally, you're going to want to address a new message to the person it's being sent to, and the name helps you do that. But things have come a long way from when you could first sort of use somebody's name in an email and kind of being applicable and personalized today. So the name is usually going to be something that's just almost always has to be in an email or a message. Um, but you're going to want to supplement it with other things. You're going to want to take into account someone's purchasing behavior, buying behavior. You're going to want to say, hey, look, because you bought this, we think you'll like this. Or people who look like you also like these products. And so the name is, it's kind of necessary, but not sufficient in today's world of marketing.
Very, very cool. Anything else in terms of AI, artificial intelligence, and helping to predict what customers want, using that data for acquisition, as you said, and for retention? Any other thing, any strategies, any tactics you want to share with that?
Yeah, one thing we haven't touched on yet is when it comes to acquisition. People are having a lot of trouble today, especially with the cost of ads going way up. And one of the things that has worked well for our customers is taking a list of your best customers or the people who are likely to be your biggest spenders in the future and creating sort of a lookalike audience for those people on Facebook, on Instagram, and targeting people who look like your best customers. That's pretty obvious, right? But a lot of people, sometimes don't think to do this. Or if they do it, they take their entire subscriber list and say, find me people who look like my subscribers. When in reality, you really don't want people who look like your subscribers because maybe not all of them are buying. You want people who, who look like your best customers. And those people are likely to spend more. They're likely to be your best customers. And what we've seen is when you do something like this, very simple, just a lookalike audience based on your best customers, your return on ad spend goes up, your CPMs go down, and it's something that is generally very good for your business. So that's one way you can use. You don't even need AI for that. It might help if you're trying to particularly highlight a particular product. You can do the same tactic. People who are likely to buy a particular product, find lookalike audiences from that. That does use AI. But otherwise, you can just come up with a list of your top customers. So that's a tip I would definitely recommend to people. And then let's see, we definitely covered already personalized product recommendations. That's really important. One other thing that we are starting to see, we're starting to implement and we're starting to see shops implement is sort of on-site personalized recommendations, where maybe you're looking at a product, you might get a list of other products that people who like that product have bought, or you might be looking at a list of the best products specifically for you based on your browsing data and behavioral data. So those are all good ways to use AI to either grow sales by post-purchase email marketing and SMS marketing or Facebook marketing, or on-site optimizing your conversion rates.
Let's talk about user privacy, how it's going to affect marketing going forward.
Yeah, it's a big area right now. Obviously, iOS rolled out privacy updates last year, which affected advertising, and Google Chrome is rolling out privacy updates next year, where they're going to remove third-party cookies. So privacy is becoming one of those big, really sort of interesting areas where a lot of people are now starting to take it seriously. What this means for marketers is you're ultimately going to have less efficacy and sort of poorer performance from the tools that you're using, which sort of rely on free access to all things, to all data. So like you've already seen, Facebook ads are more expensive now because it's not as easy for Facebook to find the right people for your store. With Google getting rid of with Chrome getting rid of third-party cookies, it's going to be harder for the ad networks to find the right person to sort of advertise to you. And so what this means is that you as a marketer are going to need to do a couple of things. You're going to need to start diversifying across different channels. So maybe now instead of just Facebook and Google ads, you're trying TikTok, you're trying Twitter, and you're trying maybe even in-person mailers. And then the second thing it means is the data that you do have is going to become crucial for you to improve your retention marketing. Your focus on retention and repeat purchases is going to have to go way up now, because you no longer are going to have that sort of easy acquisition of customers that you've been used to. And so you're now going to have to focus on your existing customers and how to incentivize them to buy more from you.
Very cool. This is so good. Lots of good information, content that you've shared with us, with data, using data in in a meaningful way in growing a business, in acquiring new customers and keeping the existing customers to keep coming to you. Any final words of wisdom before we finish off?
Well, I wanted to say first, thank you again. It's been a pleasure sort of chatting with you. Happy to set up your listeners with, an Aptio account if they're interested in trying this out. And I would say two sort of words of wisdom. The first mistake I see brands making when it comes to data is they're just not collecting it. Either it's all spread out across multiple systems, or maybe they're not even collecting phone numbers when they should be, or email addresses when they should be. That's sort of the first step to remedy. Put it all in one place. And then the second thing is start using it. You don't need to be a data scientist to start figuring out, this customer bought this. Maybe I should try to get them to buy this, or maybe this customer hasn't responded to me in a year. Maybe I sort of get them out of my email list and sort of save costs. So collecting data and then using it, sort of two mistakes that most brands aren't making today, which I think that can really help them grow their business if they do start to focus on it.
Right, right. Yeah. How can people reach out to you? How can listeners, what's the best way for them to reach out to you? You mentioned the name of the app. What is that? And
Yeah. So I
tell
would
us
say
more.
that check us out on our website. That's the easiest way. Our website is aptio.co. That's apteo.co. Lots more information on who we are, what we do. You can always reach out to me directly. I'm Shanif at aptio.co, SHANIF. And then between those two channels, best way to find us. But we also have an app on Shopify. We've got a LinkedIn account, Twitter account. So if you search for Aptio, you'll be able to come across us pretty quickly.
Yeah, I love your website. I'm on it right now as we speak. I jumped on it. Really clean and nice, and yeah, very, very lots of content, lots of
Appreciate that.
information here. So I really uh, ask people to to jump on it, to see what it's about, and if there's a place for them in their business. Um, Thank you so much, Shanif. Great having you, man, and
Thanks.
learning about you and all the stuff you shared with us.
Thanks again, Salim. Likewise, pleasure chatting with you. Have a great day.